They had big crowds in Miami this weekend. I take it for granted the biggest of the year. Now, the Yankees are there, and there's a lot of Yankee fans, so I don't go crazy. It's good to see the ballpark hopping, but, I mean, it's not Marlins fans per se, so keep that in mind. Bryan Hoch, of course, says hello, and he joins us here. Covers the Yankees, does a wonderful job. All right, Bryan, they've had a lot of bad losses. That game in Baltimore was a brutal loss. Earlier in the year in Tampa, they blew a big game against the Rays. We can go on and on. But this one might top the cake. I mean, they needed to win. It's a rubber game. They need to get a little momentum. They got a 7-4 lead, and they give up all those runs there in that ninth inning. Where's this one stack up in 23? You've been covering them. Let me hear. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, it's been stunning. You know, and I think that I would put yesterday's as the worst loss of the year, but there's been so many that I can't even remember all of them off the top of my head. I think this one goes close to that one in Denver when the Rockies walked them off in 11 innings and they had leads late in the game. But this is a series they have to win. They have not been winning series lately. And for a team that's in it to win it, as Brian Cashman said, they're now 1-8-3 in their last 12 series here. So that is not the way that postseason teams play. These are games that championship teams don't lose. And so this is definitely a candidate for worst loss of the year. But they've had so many to stack up there that I don't even think you can pick out just one and say that's the worst of the year.
Yeah, they've had 8 these walk-off losses. That Oriole game, that first game, and though they didn't blow a lead, that was a bad one too, and they couldn't score. Let's throw that in there. And you're right about the Rockies. Where do we go from here? Let's just look at the Yankees per se, since they're on the verge of saying goodnight for this season. They go to Atlanta. That's brutal. You know, they're not that far behind. The thing about the Yankees, only 4 or 5 out. And we all know that Seattle and Toronto are not great teams, so that's not insurmountable. They got the Red Sox in between, but they're only 4 or 5 games behind in the loss column. So you hesitate to, you know, put the kibosh on them. But again, no signs to indicate that this is going to be a postseason team. What's your take with that? Let me hear.
Well, they need to turn it around, and need to turn it around in a hurry, or otherwise their season is going to end on October 1, and that's no secret. So I think that, you know, Clay Holmes said it yesterday. He said the mountain gets bigger with every loss, and Aaron Boone even said we don't have a lot of time. So you're looking at a team here. Yes, they are 5 out. The expanded playoffs help them. And the one thing is that their schedule does allow them to make up a little bit of ground here. They got the Red Sox coming up this weekend in New York. Then they go to Tropicana Field in about a week and play against the Rays. So they are playing some of the teams that are in front of them. But I feel like we may be looking at the wrong thing with these Yankees. We're talking about the chances of them making the postseason. Is their streak of finishing above 500 going to stay alive here? They haven't finished below 500 since 1992. And now they're only 2 games above 500. 1992, that's the Buck Showalter era back in the day. So the entire Derek Jeter era, they were above 500. And by the way, breaking news, Derek Jeter is going to come to Old Timers Day. So that's something that Yankee fans can look forward to. That's his first time there. But the Yankees certainly wish their focus would be on the present-day Yankees rather than the past this season.
Yeah, that's the Stump Merrow Yankees, and that's the second longest streak of over 500 in Major League Baseball history. Lee, the researcher, just gave me that. So good statistic there, Brian. Well, listen, let's say, you know, it's going to take 88 wins. Let's say they don't get it. Nobody knows. So if anybody thinks they know, they don't. But what do you think the ramifications will be for the GM and or manager from Tampa where the owner resides? What can you tell me there?
You know, there was a report this week that said Brian Cashman's job will be safe, and that makes sense considering he's in the early years of a contract extension here. I don't expect that will happen, and I think that what works in Cashman's favor is that long history of success. He can lean on that and say, let's assume they don't make the playoffs. Let's assume they finish below 500. He can point back and say, look at the last 24 years where I did the job and I got the job done and gave a championship caliber operation. So I feel like that's probably what's going to happen there. I feel like Boone, the Yankees love him. Cashman loves him. Hal Steinbrenner loves him. I don't think they would be inclined to make a change there, but the fan outcry if they don't make the postseason may just be so loud that they might not be able to ignore it and go into next season without making some kind of change there. But I don't look at this whole situation and say, well, this is because Aaron Boone did a bad job and he's a bad manager. I don't see that as being the issue. The problem is the team that they put together just has not performed in so many different ways. And of course, it didn't help having Aaron Judge run into a wall and you lose him for 2 months there. But I feel like if they're going to make a change at the end, it's going to be that they feel like they've got to do something to change it up for next year and satisfy the bloodlust of the fan base, which is getting loud. I see it every day on social media. The fans are angry out there. They did not sign up for a last place Yankee team. So I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like the Yankees are going to lean toward trying to make as little change as possible, at least in the GM or manager situation. But it really depends on how the players perform down the stretch here and what kind of ending they can put on this season.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're Hal, you got to ask him a couple questions. I don't want to paraphrase the Hall of Famer Bill Madden on this, but their farm system, they don't do anything. I mean, and then they made the trade for Gallo. That was a disaster. That analytical department hasn't been, top rate by any stretch of the imagination. Tampa finds people. All these other teams, Baltimore, I know they had a lot of high picks, but they find people too. The Yankees, look at the Dodgers. I mean, and nobody's drafts lower than them, and they got 1 million pitchers on that staff who make a contribution. How come the Yankees don't have anybody like that coming up from their farm system making these big contributions? Any particular?
I'll tell you what kills them is they've had some big misses. Last year's trade deadline was a complete disaster. And I start with Frankie Montas, but the other moves there too. Everybody got hurt. We just saw Scott Efros and Lou Trevino were in Miami, but they're both rehabbing from surgery. And so every single guy they traded for last year either was ineffective or hurt, and they gave up a lot of prospect capital to get these guys, which I think is part of why when you saw the Yankees, they decided here at the deadline, you had two options. Are you going to buy or are you going to sell? And they kind of straddled it in the middle. They didn't really do much of anything. They didn't sell off the parts. They got Keenan Middleton from the White Sox, but I feel like they felt like they didn't want to make another bad move, which would hurt them, which is what they did a lot last year and actually set them back. They figured that doing almost next to nothing here this year would be the safer move. I didn't personally agree with that. I thought that either you should go for it or you should sell off, but they kind of are throwing their chips in that, hey, see if these guys can turn it around, buy them another 2 months. And, we see the early returns here. They had a chance to win a series here in Miami yesterday and couldn't get it done.
Internet's coming in and out for me today, so I'll say this. I didn't hear Brian's last answer specifically, but let me just ask him this, because this is something that is important. Listen, I can't kill the Yankees on LeMahieu because I would have done the same thing. I can't kill the Yankees on Rizzo because I certainly would have signed him too. So let's be fair, and those two guys obviously have been hurt and haven't played well. But could you make the argument, Brian, that 25 years, and Cashman's a great GM. I understand that. And he'll get a job in 5 seconds. But gee whiz, a quarter of a century running a sports team in New York City? I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, Branch Rickey didn't get 25 years. Maybe George Weiss did under Rupert. I can look it up. But 25 years is a very, very... Dave Checketts didn't get 25 years. I mean, Pat Riley didn't get 25 years. Neil Smith, who won a Stanley Cup, he didn't get 25 years. I mean, Steve Phillips didn't get 25 years. That's an awful long time to entrust your franchise with one guy for, basically a quarter of a century. What's your take on that for a sec? Let me hear. Go ahead.
History, Cashman is Ed Barrow at this point. That kind of run there, that run of longevity. And I think that the reason for that is, A, the results. They keep putting a winning team on the field, even if they're not winning the World Series. 2009 was a long time ago. It's been 14 years now, I believe, if my math is right. So in that regard, they have not gotten to the top of the mountain, but they do continue to post that above 500 record, as we said. You go into every season thinking the Yankees have a chance to make the playoffs. So if that's the criteria, if it's just putting a winning team on the field, Cashman has accomplished that. I do feel like there are parts of the operation that they do need to take a hard look at. And that's something that Hal Steinbrenner said, that if this season, he said that in July, that if this season does not turn out the way they think it was supposed to turn out, and that I assume is with a parade down the Canyon of Heroes, then he's going to be asking hard questions. And I think that this now opens up every part of the organization for inspection here, and to say, is this team really doing everything the way they should be, the way they could be? Obviously, look, you mentioned DJ LeMahieu. I was in favor of that trade too. I didn't see him falling off a cliff the way his performance has. Injuries, of course, had a part of that. But I think that you've now locked yourself in with so many of these long-term contracts here, and Garrett Cole, Aaron Judge, those are your stars. They're leading the team. They've been worth every penny. It's everybody else on the roster, I feel like, is open for inspection at this point. You take a hard look at it and say, is this really the team you want to bring back for 2024?
Listen, good call, good job, Bri. Thanks for joining us here today. Appreciate you coming on. Keep up the good work. Excellent.
You got it, Chris. Thank you.